Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Should I Stay or Should I Go? Things to Consider When Making a Job or Career Transition, brought to you by your Vanderbilt Alumni Association. I'm Rayanna Mal, Assistant Director of Alumni and Student Engagement, and I'm so glad you could join us from wherever you are this afternoon. Today's webinar will be wrapped up within the hour, lasting around 45 minutes, with time at the end for questions. Please type your questions as you have them into the questions box, and we will make sure to address those before time is up. We are recording today's presentation and will share a link with you via email later this week. Our presenter today is Jim Bellar of the Bellar Group. Jim has worked with a variety of clients in job and career transitions, including students and executives. His experience includes leadership roles as Associate Director at the Vanderbilt Center for Student Professional Development and Director of Career Development at the National Career Advancement Center. A graduate of Western Kentucky University, he is a global career development facilitator and has presented at national and international career conferences. Jim, thanks so much for being with us today.
All right. Thank you, Rayanna, and thank you, Lauren. Hello to everyone out there in the Vanderbilt community. Today, my goal is to give you some tools to make a decision, not only for your current situation, but for all the jobs and opportunities that come up in your future. To make this webcast meaningful, please have something to write on, whether it's a digital device or paper and pencil, so you can take notes as we go through these exercises. So 3 things we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about the changing job market. We're going to talk about the role of values and goals in decision making. And we're going to create a strategy to leverage your decision regardless of what you do. So let's talk a little bit about the job market, what's going on out there. You know, workers are changing jobs more often than ever, right? We've all seen the statistics. The Bureau of Labor says that the average tenure for a person on the job now is about 4.2 years as of 2016. If you're aged 25 to 34, which probably most of you are, that tenure is more like 3.2 years. And so some of you may be thinking, who've been on the job for a while, for 5 years, 10 years, or whatever, you may be thinking, golly, it's time to go. I've been on my job too long. And that's not what this says. Well, if you're satisfied on your job, if your employer is satisfied with you, that sounds like a good match. Had a client recently that we worked everything to get her first job after college, and she emailed me 2 months after she was on the job and says, is it too soon to change jobs? And here's the thing, work is not prison, so you can leave your job whenever you want to, but consider and understand, why are you leaving this job? Is this the next shiny, bright object to go to another one, or do you have valid reasons for leaving? Also, consider the hiring manager, the person that hired you, and the time and money it takes to hire somebody these days. So again, you can leave anytime you want to, but there's no magic number about how long you should stay. There's a shift from traditional employment and all those things we read about, contract work and gig economy and project work. There's an article in Forbes not long ago that says 50% of workers will be freelancers by 2020. That sounds like a big number. Now, all these freelancers won't be full-time, but again, that just shows you the shift in the labor market. People are wanting more, again, quality time and flexibility and all those things. So the thing is, when you came out of Vanderbilt, probably many of you took traditional jobs, which is 9 to 5, 9 to 6, whatever it is. In your work life, you may have all these different working situations. You may go from a traditional job to a project-based job, or where you do a portfolio career where you have revenue streams coming in from all kinds of different sources. And then you may go back to a traditional job. So there's pros and cons of all of these, but just understand that may happen to you. Unemployment is really, really low, right? It's the lowest it's been since the early 2000s. It's 4.1% right now. If you graduated, that was at Vanderbilt at the time in the Career Center. If you graduated in 2008, 2009, the unemployment rate was about 10%. And it was more difficult to get jobs, and there weren't a lot of job offers being had at that time. If you're in places like Austin, Texas, San Francisco, Nashville, the unemployment rate is about 2.8 right now, which is incredibly low. For the most part, it's a job seeker's market. Employers want you to stay. And as a result, they keep bringing out the ping pong tables and the espresso machines and the craft beer. And now some of them are experimenting on the West Coast with a 30-hour work week. And they're doing that because millennials are starting to have children and they want quality time with them, work-life balance. There's a lack of skilled workers in certain industries. LinkedIn just started releasing a workforce report that gives an overview of the job market, unemployment rates, and all those things. And they also have individual reports for the 20 largest cities. Like Nashville is one of those. So if you look at our workforce report, we have a shortage of workers in IT infrastructure, software engineering, process and project management, food and beverage, all those things. There are abundances, which means there's more workers than positions. And guess what? Music production. You were here in Nashville, and I understand that everybody who works for an insurance company or anywhere is a musician or in the music business. So we have too many people in music production, got too many people in healthcare management, lean manufacturing, TV and video production. But that doesn't mean you can't get a job in these areas. That just means you have to use the Vanderbilt network a little bit better to get these jobs. I want to make a note here, and it may have dawned on some of you, and may have not by now. Had coffee with a friend the other day, and she's in probably early 30s or something like that. And she's already been laid off twice from two major companies in healthcare industry. And so I want to make the point, just because a company is hiring doesn't mean they're not laying off, and vice versa. So we saw that at the first of the year, right, with Amazon. They laid off 200 workers right at the first of the year in a business function that they wanted to de-emphasize. We also saw that in the Nashville area. There's a area university that laid off 140 workers right at the beginning of the year. The last point I want to make here is in the job market is technology is affecting how we work, right? We all know that. But McKinsey had a report last year that said globally up to 800 million jobs will be automated by 2030. 800 million jobs. So we've got artificial intelligence and machine learning, robotics, and all these different things. Last month at South by Southwest, we saw a 3D printer build a house out of concrete in one day with no humans. So I say all that to say this. I think of Wayne Gretzky, and Wayne Gretzky says, I skate to where the puck is going to be, right? Skate to where the puck is going to be. So I would suggest, again, that you keep an eye, if you want to stay employed and stay marketable, keep an eye out for trends in your field, skills that are going to be needed, what's going on in your company, have those conversations, what's coming down the pike, what kind of opportunities are there, what kind of technology we're going to use. Understand that technology and innovation can lead to opportunities for you. They can also lead to layoffs. All skill sets have a shelf life, and your employer may not teach you everything you need to know to keep your job. So work is a balancing act. The company has needs, they need workers, and you have needs, you need a job. So we're going to go through some activities right now to see how you are aligned with your company and your job. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to ask you a series of questions and just answer the best you can, really short answers. Do you look forward to going to work on most days? Do you look forward to going to work on most days? Everybody's going to go through periods where things aren't working out well, or there's a new process that's coming in and you're trying to adjust to it. So that just happens. Or you go through cycles where you're just working, and then things ease up. But for most days, do you look forward to going to work? Next question, what excites you about your present job? Is it your coworkers? Is it your supervisor? Is it the mission of what you're trying to do? What excites you? Again, maybe 3 or 4 words or whatever comes to mind. Do you feel fairly compensated for what you do? This is easy to find, right? It's got all these sites now that'll tell you exactly what you can make in a certain company. If you work for some state and government offices, they can really tell you right down to the position and the person in that position. So it's pretty transparent. But you may not feel fairly compensated if you have equity issues in your company, and they're trying to solve those. Does your job energize you? Or does it bring you down? Right? Are you one of those people when you get off work say, golly, I can't wait till tomorrow. We're going back to work and we're going to work on these exciting projects, and we're going to travel to California, we're going to work on this, and I just love it. Or a friend of mine just got promoted, and she got 2 job functions that they gave her that they had to give to somebody, and they were really outside of what her core job is. Somebody had to take them, right? That's how that goes. So I said, well, how do you deal with that? She says, well, every afternoon I go up to a place in my home and I meditate for an hour. So she's trying to, so does your job energize you or does it bring you down? What would you change, what would you change to make your job more satisfying? From the first day you get on the job, your job is constantly changing, right? You may change supervisors. Your job description may be moving around. You may change locations. All these things are constantly changing. You're changing at the same time. But your job, after a while, you may not even recognize the job you were hired to do. So what would you change to make your job more satisfying today? Would it be more additional responsibilities? Would it be taking more of a leadership role? Would it be, being able to contribute more? What would make your job more satisfying? Okay, last but not least, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being high, how satisfied are you with your present job? How satisfied are you with your present job? This is not a scientific scale, but it might look like this. Let's say if you're a 10, everything's wonderful. You love your coworkers, you love your organization, the mission, purpose, all these different things. You don't have to drive real far to get to work. Everything's good. And understand that a 10, by some of you, may be very different for somebody else. But let's say a 10 looks like that. Everything's hitting on all cylinders. But that doesn't mean that you're not looking for a job. What it means is probably people are looking for you, or they're trying to get you away from the company. What's a 6 then? A 6 is not bad. It supports my goals, the job does, and I'm probably not going to stay forever. But it's okay right now. It meets some of my basic needs. And then if you get down to about a 2, you may be thinking, I need to get out of here. And there's probably reasons for why you feel that way. And you need to ask yourself the question, well, what will happen if I stay? Your answers to these questions probably have something to do with your values and goals. Values are our internal compass to what we will and won't do. They stabilize over time. They may indicate how we feel about what we do, when we do it, where we do it, who we do it with. At times, you may experience a values conflict. I've got these values and something's happened, something's changed. Maybe you were hired and they told you you have a flexible work schedule. You can come in and do your work, and you go home and feed the dog and come back to work, whatever that looks like. And then you've got a new supervisor comes in and says, no, nobody has a flexible work schedule anymore. And you may become dissatisfied, and if enough values are not met, then you may decide to leave at that point. A company's values are defined in its culture. And these are the written rules, the mission statement and all that kind of stuff, but also the unwritten rules and then how business is carried out on a daily basis. So it's important to know how your values align with those of your company. I've been given assessments for quite a few years, Myers-Briggs and the Strong Interest, and I always found that values assessments really get to the heart of job satisfaction, where somebody is satisfied with their job or not. So what are values? Those are things like trust and honesty. If those are important to you on the job, you want to see people walk the talk all the way from the mission statement on down. It's flexibility. So we talked about that. If that's a top value of yours, you want to be able to kind kind of do things during the day, and as long as you get your work done, you have a flexible schedule. High earnings. Now, what in the world is that, right? If I ask 10 people, I would get 10 different answers. Some people say, well, that's 50,000, that's 100,000, that's 500,000, it's 2 million, whatever that is. If you really need high earnings, and again, I see that in some of the assessments I've given with people in sales and some in finance, you have to have that. That's a value. So if you get placed in a job where you don't get that, you may not be satisfied. Develop and learning is another value. That's a big thing now. The opportunity to develop and learn on the job, and your employer is paying for it, because that's money in the bank, right? Because that increases your skill set. Last but not least, and this is a big one now for some people, location. The average commute today is 28 minutes each way. So roughly 30 minutes each way. So you do that every day of the week, and you can get out in some of the urban areas. It's not uncommon, like here in Nashville, it's not uncommon for people to commute an hour and a half each way, or even 2 hours each way. And you think, well, how long? You add that up, and pretty soon you're working another work week, just traveling on the road or on a train or on a ferry, however you get to work. And so how important is that to you to not to do that and spend that time doing something else? So what we're going to do, I'm going to flash up 4 screens here. We're going to do a quick values assessment. And again, after the webinar, you can come back to this and slow these screens down and think more about these values and what you would choose. But right now, we're going to go through it and indicate the values on each screen that you would like to show up in your work. What values are important to you? For instance, if flexibility is important to you, even though you don't have it in your present job, put that on the list. At the end of this, you should have about probably 10 to 15 different values. And feel free to add any values that are not on this list. So here we go. Here's the first screen. Things like achievement, is that important to you? Appreciation, balance, independence. You're the kind of person that you know what you're doing, and you just want to check in maybe with your supervisor every once in a while, and you go off and do your own thing. Or prestige, whether that's a title or working for a Fortune 500 company or whatever that is. So again, go ahead and choose those that are important to you, how you would like them to show up in your work. All right, moving right along, because we don't have a whole lot of time. Here's the second screen. Are benefits important to you? What about excitement on the job and fast-paced? We're in here, we're just moving around. Pretty soon the day's over, because it's just we're out there getting it. High earnings, there it is again, location. Do you like a fast-paced work environment, or do you like one that's relaxed? Everybody sitting around with shorts and flip-flops on, listening to music, that kind of thing. Do you like security? Sometimes when people stay on a job a while, they like security. They like to know what they're going to be doing, and they're going to have a paycheck coming in once a month or twice a month, whatever that is. And here's the thing, structured or unstructured. Again, do you like to work in the kind of place where everything's figured out and you know exactly what's going to happen? Or do you like to walk in the morning and everybody's you're figuring it out as you go? Alrighty, we're going to go to the next screen. Again, you can come back to these. What about competition? You see that a lot in sales positions. You like a competitive environment, a cooperative environment where there's a lot of diversity, friendships, fun, harmony, open communication. You like to know what's going on. You can go to people and ask what's going on in our organization, and they'll tell you. And when it comes from the top, when a decision is made at the top, it flows through the organization pretty quickly. Teamwork, trust. Again, at the end of this, you'll probably have 10 to 15. So pick as many as you want from each screen. There'll probably be 2 or 3. Alrighty. You like challenging work. We really have to think about what you're doing, problem solving, that kind of thing. Do you like creative work? Is it detail? Do you like innovative work where you're on the cutting edge, your organization is, and you are of solving problems and innovating and doing those kinds of things? Do you like public contact? Do you like being out there with people, networking? And do you like variety? Or do you like doing the same thing over and over again? Some people do. Yeah. After the webinar concludes, I would encourage you to go back and get these down to 10 values, with 1 being the most important. Right now, for the sake of time, just circle your top 5 values, the ones that you think are most important. Circle your top 5 values. We'll take a couple of seconds to do that. Okay. So here's some questions to ask now that you've got these values identified. So you got your top 5 values. Do your values align with your present job? Right? Do they align with your present job? If creative is a value of yours, do you see that show up in your work every day? If analytical is the top value of yours, are you getting to use that? So the ones that do, you might even put a check mark beside them. So these are already showing up. And again, please go back and do this with 10 values after the webinar. Next one, how many values align with your organization's values? So let's say your values are cooperation, harmony, and structure. And maybe your organization is the opposite of that. Maybe there's no cooperation. Maybe there's no harmony. So again, understand the values that align with your organization. And we're going to talk about your organization a little bit more in just a minute. Here's a big one. Remember, I was talking about values conflicts a while ago. Can you identify any values conflicts? Again, let's say independence is a top value of yours, and you have a micromanager as a boss. That's going to drive you crazy. And again, that's going to be something you're going to have to trade off there and decide what to do about. And have a conversation. Again, maybe innovation. Maybe that's you like innovation and you work for an organization that doesn't change. They pride themselves, we don't change, we're solid. And there's nothing wrong with that. Some people like that kind of organization, other people don't. Okay, here's the great thing about values. If you're looking for another, I'm sure some of you are interviewing right now. Some of you may be looking around. You can use these values to compare to a potential job that you're going to take. How many of these values would be met in my new potential job, possible job? And then how many would be met in terms of the organization? Values are also great interview questions if you know what your values are. So you might, if teamwork is important to you, and they may have this stuff in the job description, and they may not, but you may ask the question: are there opportunities to work on teams? Is your organization flexible? To let employees work from home occasionally, those kinds of things. What's your professional development policy? So if you want to learn more about values, there's tons of free values assessments online. I saw a really cool one the other day in Australia that kind of sorts them for you. That's pretty cool. So we're going to move along to another way to look at should I stay or should I go. Years ago, I had a training with a career guru named Richard Nodell. And Richard Nodell is the godfather of career card sorts. And one of the things he said in the training was you can ask 3 questions to determine job fit. And those questions are, can you do it? Will you do it? Do you fit in? Now, I've used these questions as a hiring manager to determine fit. I've also used them in coaching with clients. So what does that look like? Can you do the job? You might ask yourself, can I do my present job? Or you might do this for a job that you're looking at. Do I have the skills to do it? And the skills that I don't have, do I have the ability to learn these skills? Pretty basic, right? Can I do the job? The next one is, will you do the job? And this gets a little bit more complicated. This gets into your values and your interests. I can do the job, but I don't want to do the job. I'm no longer interested in it. It's the same thing over and over again. Or maybe I've done it for so long that I'm burned out. And it doesn't take, people say, well, it takes 5, 10, 20 years to get burned out. It all depends, You can be burned out in 2 years. Or it may be a value, I can do it, but you're not paying me enough. I can do it, but you're not paying me enough. So think about it. In your present job, can I do my job? Will I do it? Am I motivated to do it? Do I want to do it? Does it connect with my values? The last one is actually the most important. Do you fit in? We're talking about personality and values here. And of course, we're talking about organizational culture, right? The rules that are written and that are unwritten. So we have a lot of political discussion now in our country, and it's gone over to the workplace. I've got several friends in HR, and they said they deal with it all the time. So how this might play out in terms of a culture, maybe you interviewed the job, you can do it, you will do it, but you get into a culture that is the opposite of your political views, one way or another. Or you get into a culture, they're just talking about politics all the time, and it's just driving you crazy. Or maybe one of your top values is harmony, and you get into a culture where people do a lot of gossiping and all that kind of stuff, And you're thinking, well, hey, I didn't come here for this. I just wanted to do my job and go home. And sometimes that's difficult to do. There's a book that was recently written by a Stanford professor, and it's called Dying for a Paycheck. Dying for a Paycheck. And he contends that the workplace is the 5th leading cause of death in the U.S. The 5th leading cause of death in the U.S. And he attributes this to corrosive management practices that bleed throughout organizations and create bad cultures. And so what are the kind of the outcomes that we see of that is we see workplace shootings, right? We see stress and heart disease and addiction and all these things. So you have to ask yourself, what's the impact of being in the wrong culture and staying there too long? So answer this question. How would you describe your work culture? Of course, there's the big culture, which is the organization, and then your work unit has a culture, and there's all these subcultures. But overall, how would you describe your culture? Maybe 3 or 4 words. Okay, we're going to move along to goals. Remember, we talked about values a while ago, and values stabilize over time. Goals can be very situational, and what was important last year may not be important this year, on and on. Of course, there's short-term goals and long-term goals, and your goals may have nothing to do with your job. They may have everything to do with your job, but they may have nothing to do with your job. I have a friend who her goal was several years ago to get her MBA. Talked about it all the time, contacted all these schools, did all these things, And I saw her a few months ago, and I said, well, did you get the MBA? And she said, no. She said, it's a lot of money, and it doesn't fit in with my career path. And I thought, wow, that is important, And that's just how quickly things can change. I worked with a lot of undergraduates and recent graduates at Vanderbilt. And graduates coming out, sometimes you don't know what you want to do. You got to get out there to determine what that is. So I would do these searches with some students, and I said, well, what's important to you right now? And they said, what's important is I want to have fun, and I want be with my friends in a big city like D.C. or New York, and we'd just do a search based on that. There's nothing wrong with that. Other students would talk about, I want to build my career. I want to set a foundation. I want to travel the world. I want to get with a company that allows me to do that. But now, some of you are 25 and 30 and 35, and your goals probably have changed. It may be maybe you picked up another degree, and now you got some student loans you want to pay off. Maybe you want to save some money to start a family. Maybe you need to help some ailing parents or whatever. Or maybe you want to start a business. Or maybe you want to retire at 40. And what that means is you don't want to work for anybody else. You want to do your own thing. So take a couple of seconds and write down a couple of goals. What are you trying to accomplish right now through working? There's no right or wrong answer. If you want a new Tesla, I'd say put that on the list right there. And get one for me too. So, why are you working? And the next question on that is, does your present job meet your goals, what you're trying to do? Does it connect in some way? Ready? You know, we've discussed values and the importance of them aligning to your job and to your company. And we talked about the 6 questions. What excites you about going to work? And we talked about job fit. Can you do it? Will you do it? Do you fit in? And how our work may support our larger goals of whatever those are. Now I want to take it to a different level. A recent Harvard Business Review article says there are 3 levels of working. 3 levels of working. And those levels are, there's a job mindset. That's when somebody says, you know, I'm only here for the money. I'm going to do these things. You pay me that amount of money, and that's it. Really, I don't want to deal with anything else. There's a career mindset, and this says an individual is mainly focusing on their salary, their title, how much power they have, their sphere of control, those kinds of things. And last but not least, there's a purpose mindset. And a purpose mindset is feeling passionate and innovative and committed and having an outward-looking focus on serving the broader organization or key stakeholders. Also, a purpose, professional purpose, feels aligned with your personal purpose. What the author says is that no one lives in a purpose mindset all the time, right? But spending too much time in a career mindset, it's all about me, or a job mindset, I'm only here for the money, is destructive. So you're certain to be dissatisfied on the job. You may harm your reputation and your long-term prospects. Focusing on your career and paycheck can lead to bad behaviors like bullying, selfishness, trying to exert control over others. So they suggest before this happens, seek a new role, a new organization, rebalance your equation. And again, that's the job mindset, career mindset, and purpose mindset. So you might think throughout the day, you know, how much do you spend in each one of these? You know, in recent years, there's been a lot of discussion and articles about the importance of how we live our lives versus what we do for a living. One of the most popular classes for quite a while on Stanford University's campus is something called Designing Your Life. The 2 professors that teach that wrote a best-selling book, I think maybe in 2016. And what they do is they use design thinking to teach others how to create a life that is meaningful and fulfilling. The most popular class in history on Yale University's campus is something called Psychology and the Good Life. Psychology and the Good Life. This is so popular, it's now being offered, and all this just happened really quickly. It's now being offered through Coursera in a course called The Science of Well-Being, and this is actually free. You can take this online. And it has many free assessments and exercises to help you determine what makes you happy in life. So really, a thought is, what is your purpose? You know, I saw this interview the other day with Shaquille O'Neal, NBA player, all-star, all these things, you know. Lots of people don't know he is worth about $360 million, and he has all these business enterprises. I mean, it's amazing all the things he's in: construction, high-rises, car insurance, all these different things. And they say, well, what's the theme that runs through all of these things for you? And he says, it's fun. I want to have fun, and I want the people around me to have fun. And when they buy my products or listen to my pitches, my goal is for them to have fun. So what do you think your purpose might be? And this is a difficult question, I will tell you. Sometimes it's a look back after you've been out in the workplace for a while. But it may be, is your purpose empowering, maybe helping people, connecting people, informing, leaving a small carbon footprint on the planet? You know, consider your purpose as it relates to your jobs and your goals and your values and all those things, you know. How do you spend your time? What do you find yourself doing over and over again, and what excites you? Okay, drum roll. We're coming down to trying to answer the question here. Should I stay or should I go? If you stay, create a timeline with some basic steps about how long you think you're going to stay. And you never know. Let's say, you know, I'm going to stay 2 more years. And in my plan, what I want to do in those 2 years is I want to lead some teams. I want to learn how to do that. I want to learn software. I want to travel and explore these opportunities with your mentor or supervisor. You know, tell them you want to contribute to the organization and how can you grow and develop with them. Expand your network. Maybe you have a national network right now on LinkedIn, and you might expand to like an international network so you can see what's going on all over the world in your particular line of work or just in general. If you stay, beware of escalation of commitment. Escalation of commitment. Now, what this means is, let's say you got restaurant reservations, and you show up, and the place is packed, and you wait 30 minutes, still no table, and you're thinking, you know, it's too late to turn back now. I've invested all this time. Well, the same thing happens in our jobs, in our relationships. So we may get to so many years on the job and say, golly, I can't turn back now. And maybe your job is exactly the right place for you, but don't fall into the escalation of commitment. Just because I've been here a long time doesn't mean I can't do anything else. The other trap is golden handcuffs, right? People are paying me to stay, and they pay me more money. I saw this news story the other day on this guy. He graduated and went to Wall Street and spent 5 years there and just made a lot of money and everything. And he said he was miserable. And so he decided to leave that life and become a firefighter. A lot less money, I think. Partner with someone or a group that will hold you accountable if you decide to stay. Make sure they are helping you work your plan. Remember, staying is not a bad thing as long as your job meets your needs and your performance meets the needs of your employer. Okay, what about leaving? First of all, understand why you want to leave. Is it a values conflict? Is your job not meeting your goals? Are there other factors? Has your health deteriorated? Is it not meeting your financial goals? Or whatever? It could be something not job or goal related. Create a timeline of when you're planning to leave and prepare in advance for the transition. You may take another job, making less money, like our firefighter friend I was talking about. So again, save up and get ready for that transition if you think you're going to do that. Explore opportunities in your field and in others, and use, by all means, use the Vanderbilt network to do that. It's a great global network. Partner with someone or a group that will hold you accountable. I've got a friend going through a transition right now. She's still working, but she and a group meet once a week, and they go over a chapter in Designing Your Life, the book by the Stanford professors. So have somebody hold you accountable. Understand the warning signs when you need to leave sooner than you'd anticipated. Maybe you really don't like your job and you want to get out, but you don't know what to do. Forbes has a great article called 5 Undeniable Signs When It's Time to Leave Your Job. Now, there's another thing. Um, there's nothing wrong ever with looking around. Netflix encourages their employees to look for another job because they want them to understand their market worth and the job market and the whole thing. And if they can find something better, by all means, go ahead and take it. If not, we would love to have you come back here and work. I think in these times, that's a very healthy mindset for an employer to take. I've got a friend who just recently got another credential, and she's been working for a company for quite a while. She said, Jim, as soon as I get this other degree, I think I'm going to go somewhere else. And so she interviewed 3 places on a job, 3 different places, and emailed me later and said, you know what, where I was working offered me this great opportunities, everything I've always wanted, and with more money. She said, I'm staying. That may happen to you. You may think you're leaving, but you're staying, or you may think you're going, or you don't know what's going to happen. Recap: understand the trends, skate to where the puck is going to be, understand what's going on in your organization, and be a lifelong learner. Revisit these job fit questions, your values, goals, and what your purpose is, and have a plan whether you decide to stay or go. I got an email from a person that I worked with about a year and a half ago, and we went through a lot of these exercises like we went through today. And she said, Jim, I just want to tell you, I just changed jobs, and I pulled out the materials that we did a year and a half ago, and I looked through those, and that's when I decided to make a change. And so I encourage you, as you go through your work life, go through these materials and pull them out and see if your job is still a fit for you, or if you need to make a change. Last but not least, please contact me if you have questions. This is a lot of information. So if you have questions, please get with me on LinkedIn, and I'll be glad to help you out. And I want to thank Rihanna and Lauren for having me today.
Jim, thank you for this wonderful presentation, and thank you all on your end for participating. Be looking for email later this week with a link to the recording of today's presentation and a request for feedback. We're always looking to improve upon our offerings to alumni, so let us know how we can best support you. Thanks again for joining us.